everyone, and good morning, and welcome to another edition of, or actually the premiere edition of, The Roundtable. Yet another series of talks that we're going to have regarding today's issues and things like that from a different perspective. One that's going to be more holistic and big picture type thing as opposed to a small picture, in the hopes that someone somewhere can get a better gauge to what's going on and hopefully take steps to correct their lives to make it better for themselves and the people around them. And as always, and we'll get into this a bit later, but everything in the Jazzy Groove Rainy Day podcast family operate in the power of five, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But right now, on with the topic of today's show, and that is the big lie. Now, I'm sure you've heard that in politics, you've heard that in day-to-day vernacular and stuff like that, but we're not going to talk about those things today. No. We're going to talk about those things in the sense of how they pertain to the dating/sexual marketplace and interpersonal dynamics as a whole. Now, we're going to start this by saying something that I don't understand needs to be said. I don't think it needs to be said, but we're going to say it anyway. And that simply is the opinions and things that we're talking about do not necessarily reflect everyone. If this has nothing to do with you, brush it off. Move on. Focus on something else. If this has nothing to do with you, if you don't adhere or fit into what we're talking about from this point forward, it has nothing to do with you, disregard it. And I know some of you are going to do that anyway. You're going to disregard what's being said, whether it pertains to you or not. And once again, that's on you. I can't change it. There's nothing I can do about it. It is what it is. Whatever. And now, back to the big lie as it pertains to the sexual / dating marketplace and interpersonal dynamics. It is well accepted that men and women are different, although they will tell you differently. They'll say, oh, we're the same. We're going to start off with an uncomfortable truth. And shout out to my friends over there at that podcast. And that simply is this. If we are the same, then why are women treated differently than men? I'll let that sink in. And I'll say it again for those who didn't understand it the first time. If men and women are the same, then why is it that women are treated differently than men? We're all the same, right? Therefore, there should be no differentiating in different behaviors and things like that. We should all be the same. It should be one monolith, and it's not. As Myron Gaines, shout out to my friends over at Fresh and Fit and everyone over there. As Myron likes to say, women like to they like to enjoy preferential treatment when it suits them. In other words, they like to they like to Thoughts not coming to me. They like to enjoy outcomes that benefit them, and they like to disregard outcomes that do not benefit them. For example, there's been a lot of consternation recently about selective service and the draft. It is an accepted point of fact that men are required at the age of 18 to register for the draft. If they don't, then they forego all the privileges that come with it, like government service, government grants and scholarships and things like that. They don't get them. Women don't have to worry about that. And there's a reason for that. The reason being that in days gone by, women weren't expected to fight because they carry with them future generations. And in the event that we get into some conflict and they're wiped out, that society's over. When the adults age out, that's it. But now, with technological advances like stealth and drones and things like that, the odds aren't as great. Now, granted, they are still there and they are still significant. You can die during a war. Let's not get it twisted. You can die. But due to the advances in technology and things like that, the risks are somewhat diminished. Knowing that the risks are diminished, and also that feminism is pushing for equality. And there's the key word there, equality, meaning equal, meaning both sexes are inherently the same because they're judged to be the same. If excuse me, if feminism is pushing for equality, then shouldn't women be held to the same standard that men are? When and the whole prison complex thingy, men and women are segregated. If we're all the same, shouldn't it be inclusive? I'm just asking. Shouldn't men be housed in the same correctional facilities as women? Now I can hear people saying, no, that's silly, because then you get men getting with women and it becomes an entire mess. And that's true. That is true. Men would get with women. There'd be babies born out of wedlock in prison, and everything would become a complete and total cluster. But, and there's a huge point of consternation here, shouldn't that not matter because we are the same? Again, I'm just asking. And that's just one aspect of the big lie. The biggest lie that women are fed is that we are the same. And I'm here to tell you, no, we're not. From a existential standpoint, yes, we all bring value. We're all valuable, whether you believe in God or creation. We're all part of one big happy family. We all matter. That is very true. That goes without saying. But in terms of biology, and biology, like it or not, dictates a lot of what goes on today. From a biological standpoint, no, we're not. There are things that men enjoy from a biological standpoint that women don't. And conversely, the same is true. There are things that women enjoy that men cannot and do not from a biological standpoint. The most obvious is that women can have babies. Men cannot. So men will never know the joy and or pain of bringing another life into the world. Some say, that's true, but oh well. And again, men, for whatever reason they may have, right, wrong, or indifferent, men don't tend to stress on it. It simply is what it is. I can hear lots of men saying, I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want that. But then again, I'm not complaining about it. Where are the signs? Where are the marches? Where are the movements stating that men should be able to carry children? Where are the movements? Where are the marches? Where are the signs? Where is the outrage that men can't get into a club for free? The men can't get onto a yacht for free. That men of less than ideal acknowledgement, men that are less than in terms of aesthetics. Where is the outrage that they don't have magazines dedicated to them? They're not on the cover of GQ. But we don't worry about things like that. They're not important. To women, it's everything. Because to women, looks determine their value. I'll say that again. Looks determine a woman's value. For men, it's resources, i.e. money. That's why a man who is a 4 or even a 3 on the look scale can have lots of money, lots of status, lots of prestige, and in the eyes of women, he'll become a 7, maybe even an 8. He didn't do anything for his looks. He leveled up on everything else. And women will find that attractive. Even if they hold their nose while they do it. They'll still do it. Men and women are not the same. Which brings up another big lie, another component of the totality that is the big lie. And that simply is women are told to get your bag. To not worry about a man, to not need a man. To be a boss babe. to be a queen bee. All those flowery adjectives. They're told, so don't worry about it. You can do all that grown up stuff later. Right now, live your life. Shout out to King Richards. Live your movie. All that good stuff they're told. And to not believe what your eyes tell you. And that's the biggest lie that women will ever be told. Don't believe what your eyes show you. And because it sounds good and helps them fulfill their desires of being on top, so to speak, they do. They do not believe what their eyes tell them. From a logical standpoint, that is the most idiotic and inane thing you could ever tell someone. Don't believe what your eyes tell you. Okay, what? No. No, because that's how you get into trouble. That's how you get hurt. Let's translate that to the dating marketplace. To all those Chads and Tyrones and Enriques and Javaris and all those, let's say, I won't call them high value, I'll call them playboys. I'll call them playboys. Because although a playboy can be high value, a high value man is not inherently a playboy. So we'll call them playboys. You have the playboy. A woman walks up to a playboy. They start engaging in conversation. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you do. I don't care what you think. I don't care anything about that. Alarm bells will start to ring in your head as you talk to this individual. Uh-oh. Something's not right. Unless his game is so on point that he's as smooth as silk with his words. And that can happen too. Don't get it twisted. That can happen too. Not as much as, let's say, the average Chad or Tyrone. But that can happen. So alarm bells go off in your head. You hear the words. You see the demeanor. And something goes off in your head. This isn't right. This is wrong. Maybe we should. And why do I play the buzzer sound? I can change him. I see the warning signs. I choose to ignore them because I can change him in the long run. In the short term, he's going to fulfill my every need and desire from a sexual standpoint. He's going to lay that pipe well. That's a lie. Because in the man's head, he's thinking, she looks good, I'm going to smash. And after I get it, I'm on to the next one. That's not right. That's not fair. That's not kind. That's not just. It ticks none of those boxes and fulfills none of that criteria. It's just a fact of life. It is what it is. And we play the hand that we're dealt. So he's thinking, I'm just going to hit it and quit. Now he may have his reasons. Maybe she's coming across as something that she isn't, but she's coming across as it is, i.e., she's a 304. She's giving whole vibes. Maybe it's the way she's dressed. More than likely it's the way she's dressed, because today women are told to dress as provocatively as possible. So you get not mini skirts, you get micro skirts that just barely cover their private parts. You get plunging V-lines that show so much of the cleavage, I don't know why you're wearing it. You wear tarantulas for eyelashes, i.e. cumbrellas. You wear enough blush so it looks like you're bleeding, and that's to show signs of attraction. You wear hoop earrings. I forget exactly what they're for, but you're wearing those. You're in heels to make yourself taller. You're not that tall. All these things that you're doing, now you're saying you're doing it for yourself. Because a byproduct of you doing that is to attract a mate. And that is ultimately why you're doing it. I don't care what you think. I don't care what you say. The underlying factor for you dressing up to go out is to attract the attentions and ultimately the affections of a male. That's why you do it. And I don't understand, nor do I care to understand, why you tell yourself otherwise. Once again, shout out to King Richards. Live your movie. Go ahead. Do what you want. This whole conversation boils down to this. I'm not telling you what to do. That's not my intention. I'm suggesting an ulterior course of action that will provide a different outcome. Ultimately, and hopefully, a better one. But that's why I tell you what I tell you. I also tell you these things because I'm one of the very few males in your life that are going to talk to you with no ulterior motive. I'll say that again. I'm one of the very few males in your life that you will speak to that have no ulterior motive. I'm not trying to smash you. I'm not trying to get with you. Hell, I'm not even trying to talk to you. So, what skin in the game do I actually have? None. If I'm not trying to talk to you with the end result of having sex with you, then it stands to reason that the only reason why I'm speaking to you is because I have information to portray to you or give you that just might have a positive effect on your life. That's it. I don't care about anybody else. I don't care what other people tell you. If it's the same things that I'm saying, then why aren't you listening? Because if more than one person is telling you, if several people tell you a certain thing, there's got to be some truth to it. But also, I tell you these things to hopefully engage your brain. Think about what I'm telling you. Don't just take it as gospel. Think about it. Let it marinate in your brain for a while. Weigh the pros, weigh the cons. Take out from this information the things that you think will positively affect your life going forward. And then, and only then, should you act on it. There are so many people today that just don't do that. Or better yet, won't do that. And to those people, why? What is the harm in just thinking about what's being said? What's the harm in that? I don't see it. And there are hundreds of thousands of people out there, if not millions, that would agree with me on that. There's no harm in that. There's no shame in that. Because what I'm telling you is stuff that would help you in the long run. Not anybody else. You. So if these things are there to help you going forward, wouldn't it be wise to at least listen to them? And in the event when you're listening to things that are of negative things that apply to you, acknowledgement is fine. Accountability is fine. Contrary to what you're told in the media. Contrary to what you're told about by your friends or your so-called friends. Because let's face it, misery loves company. You're upset and down on yourself. Doesn't it feel so much better when there are others that are going through the same thing that you go through? Yes. That's why, just leave him. Hang out in the clubs with us. Because we're miserable. There's no reason why you shouldn't be. So come out with us and have a good time and be miserable with us. That's the part that you're not told. Excuse me. That's the part that you're not told. Be miserable with us. Why aren't you told that? Because if you're told that, something in your brain may say, wait a minute, I don't want to be miserable. Should I really be listening to these people? And that's counter to what they're telling you, what they want you to think. So no, they're not going to tell you that. They're not going to say, wait a minute, this may not be what we need. Let's not listen to it. They're not going to hear that. They're going to hear, hang out with my friends, have a good time, meet people, and they're going to act on it. That's a lie. If men and women were truly equal, and women didn't need men, we'd be asexual. And both men and women could bear offspring. Whether you believe in God or creation, that's the fact. We truly would not need the other one. And granted, we men have a role to play in this whole sexual liberation thing too. Because we felt guilty that for so long, women were treated as an inferior. We felt bad about that. So we said, okay, wait a minute. We can't continue to go on like this. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to enact laws and policies that are going to benefit women and help elevate them a bit. Fast forward to today. That's not good enough. In an ideal world, it would be such that the men and women would have equal status, equal abilities, equal outcomes, and true happiness. Because men and women would enjoy the same things. If you look at places like Star Trek, even places like Star Wars, things like that, things about the future, you don't have these imbalances. You have equality. You have men and women serving, defending, all that good stuff. They're all doing it together. Because those creators have thought in the future, we wouldn't need inequality and affirmative action, things like that, because we're all the same. So we wouldn't need those things. Those things would be superfluous to society's functioning as a whole. So they're not needed. So they're not influenced. They're not accepted. They're not actioned on. Let's look at Star Trek for a second. Today's Star Trek, women serve as captains. They serve as first officers. They're in engineering. They're in tactical. They're prevalent all over the place. And not just a token few. You have quite a few women and men serving on those Federation starships. And actually going forward, you have that all over the galaxy. You have Klingon women and Klingon men. Romulan women, Romulan men. Ferengi men and women. You have Borg men and women, for crying out loud. And they're not even biologically human. All doing the same things, filling the same roles, and enjoying the same outcomes, whether they're positive or negative, for their respective societies. You're all the same. So, franchises like Star Trek, which in the beginning were predominantly male-driven. Let's look back at the Enterprise back then. Uhura was communications. The only woman on that crew, on the bridge crew, I should say. Otherwise, they really didn't go into it that much, so you don't know. It could be, but they purposely left that vague. Except the red shirts. That's security. They were male, and obviously, when you saw a red shirt, they're expendable. Sometime during the course of that episode, that person was going to die. That's why, what's the worst thing you can get a Federation officer for his birthday? A red shirt. Yeah, a little nerdy humor there. But they're all the same. So they didn't need affirmative action. They didn't need gender affirming things. Because a man and a woman, aside from biological differences, they're the same. Why in the world would someone tell them you're not the same? And conversely, why would someone tell them we're the same, but there's so much more you can do that they can do? That makes you superior. And that's where feminism goes off the rails. That's where feminism loses itself. Because as is customary, people tend to overcompensate, overcorrect. It's not good enough to simply say, we're the same. No, we're going to go the other way. You're better than us. Although there's plenty of evidence to say, hold on a minute, that may not necessarily be true. And that's not true. That comes to the uncomfortable truth. We're all imperfect. In that, we are all the same. We are all imperfect. And knowing that, if we're all imperfect, who can really lead? If women are superior to men, as feminism would have you believe today, why is it that women have the WNBA? Now, logically, it's because they want to compete, and we feel, as men feel, that they're not on the level that we are. And that could be true. That might not be true. It's how we think. It's our logic that brought us to that conclusion. Now, the best way around that, we did intersperse, have women and men play together. Well, that won't happen. And that won't happen because it's too much like doing the right thing. We could end so much internal strife and conflict by enacting a few simple rules. In sports, women and men should compete together. In society, women should have the same access that we do in terms of authority and decision making. We don't, but we should. We don't because women come across as emotional. And that is the reason why, whether rightly or wrongly, there's so many things in this world today that women are encouraged not to go for. I'll give you a classic example of what I'm talking about. They say women should be in positions of authority on a country level because if women were involved in that, there'd be no fighting. I say Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher was the Prime Minister of Great Britain, aka the UK, during the late 70s to early 80s. And she was there at a time where it was very much thought that women and men had different roles, and to quote The Rock, know your role and stay in your lane. Shout out to Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Know your role. Stay in your lane. So she adopted alpha male tendencies. She was very disagreeable. She was very confrontational. Classic example of that, the Falklands War. If what women are telling us is true, and women should rule countries because they would not fight. When the Falkland War, when Argentina said those are our islands, she should have said, okay, have it. I don't need it. But she didn't. And I wondered why she even thought that she needed it. Because I was talking to my wife the other day, and she gave me a very valid point as to why Great Britain needed the Falklands. Because they've got islands all over the place. So they could be in listening proximity to their adversaries and their friends. So they had a better idea of what was going on because they could have assets on the ground on their sovereign soil. What's going on in Argentina? Let's call up our assets in the Falklands Islands. They lose the Falkland Islands. They lose that strategic advantage that they've enjoyed for many years. Did she know that? It's debatable. You would think she would, because she would have access to that sort of information, but we can't ask her because she's no longer with us. And even if she was with us, would she be honest with us? Probably not. But she projected force to the Falkland Islands, and she held on to the Falkland Islands. I believe she was called the Iron Butterfly, which isn't very flattering when you think about it. Also, it's an impossibility because iron, by its very nature and its weight, precludes it from flying. Unless you cut it so thin that it could fly. But that's more geek speak, and that's a story for another day. That is not germane to what we're talking about here. She was known as the Iron Butterfly because she would throw down in a heartbeat. Where men, we'd be like, I don't know. I need to think about it. There's a saying that goes around that says, people who fight war are the ones least likely to invoke it. Because they know firsthand what could and most likely will happen if men and women were to pick up arms. They know it. Because they're the ones that got to write the letters to the families of those who lose their lives in battle. And although I've never done it, I'm here to tell you, it's not fun. Matter of fact, I can think of a million things I would much rather do than to write a letter to Joe Bloggs' family stating that it's with deep regret that I inform you that Joe Bloggs has lost his life in battle. It's not fun. It's not fair. It's not right. It's not just. At all. Under any circumstance, in any context. It's just not on. It has to be done. Because those families have a right to know what happened to their loved one in battle. Best possible scenario, they come home. Worst case scenario, they don't. In the heat of the moment, when the possibility of armed conflict is at its greatest, would you want a man in control or a woman? I'll wait. And to those who would say they want a woman, because the woman would tend not to fight. Let's look at it this way. You had countries that for years. Let's all right, here's an idea. Let's take North Korea. Kim Jong-un has attempted to get under the skin of a plethora of presidents since he's came to power in North Korea. He is a megalomaniac. It's his way or his way. Not even the highway. Because if he doesn't like what you say, you're gone. Same thing in China. Same thing in Russia. The big 2.5. Because North Korea isn't quite there yet to be a big part of the big 3. So a big 2.5. It is what it is. And he's attempted to get under the skin, and he says something that's particularly unsettling. He says something to the effect of your mama. And you got a man on one side and a woman on the other. The woman, it might be her time of the month. And we all know what happens during the time of the month. And if it is her time of the month, that son of a... Put our forces on DEFCON 1. Launch the ships, launch the fighter wings. We're going to war. Now, it may not have come to that. And looking back on it, it shouldn't have come to that, because the man would be like, "Real dude? Really, dude? Take us to DEFCON 4 just in case, but pay no mind." So in one instance, we go to war. Hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, on both sides become casualties. Casualties of war. Statistics. Footnotes. And yet each one of those people who lost their lives, they have family. People who really and truly care about them. Even those who are loners. There's somebody out there who gives a crap. There's somebody out there who feels better off for knowing that person. They may be in the minority, but it doesn't make them any less special. It doesn't make them any less necessary, appreciated. at all. And they're now all dead because you said something about somebody during the time of the month. Where a man may let it slide. A woman, and that's the thing is, the woman may let it slide if it's not her time of the month. If she's thinking more masculine than feminine, she's like, shh. Don't even take it to DEFCON 5. Ignore it. Whatever. But the question then becomes, do you risk it? That's why, although I'm upset that Hillary Clinton did not become the president of the United States, in the back of my mind somewhere, when I'm really ready to admit it, I'm relieved. Because I don't have to worry about the what ifs, the coulda, woulda, shouldas. Because I'll never know. I am blissfully unaware of it. Because I don't know. And I never will know. At least not in her instance. We could have a female president before I leave this planet. We could have a female president before my time on the earth is done. Is it likely? No. Because the same system, the same society that pushes for feminism also preys upon the fact that women don't like women. They're always, always, always in direct competition with one another for anything that you could possibly think of. And especially the attentions and affections of their counterparts. Always in competition. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Shout out to Chris Rock. During one of his specials, he set the scenario of that goes like this. You got a boy who meets this girl and introduces his best friend to the girl. Afterwards, the guy goes, "Oh wow, she seems really nice. I want to meet someone just like her." On the other side, a girl introduces her boyfriend to her best friend. And the girl thinks, "I want him. And I'll slit that bitch's throat to do it." You see the difference in that? You see the night and day differences in those two interactions. The man wants to meet someone like her so he can be happy like his friend. The woman wants to take the man from her friend so she's happy. Ain't no we're happy in it. Because women are all about them. I'll say that again. Women are all about them. They couldn't give two ticks. Or as I like to say, they wouldn't give a quarter of a fuck about someone else's happiness. Because it has nothing to do with them. And women are very self-centered. Are there women out there who love people and will do things for the greater good? Abso-freaking-lutely. And this isn't anything on them. It isn't a shout out, or slight, I should say, to anybody that thinks like that. Because there are people out there who think that way. Unfortunately, for them, They are in the minority. You want to make podcasts like this go away? Act better. It really is that simple. Act better. Show us that not only can you be better, but you can provide value. That's an oxymoron. That is a case of you cannot have your cake and eat it too. Because once you've eaten it, you no longer have it. Are there ways around that? Yes. But no one thinks about that. So we won't think about that. Be accountable. That's the number one thing I can suggest to women to make their lives better. Understand the plights, concerns, and issues of the opposite sex. As I stated many times in this podcast and others like it, we can't grow if we don't know. That's about as simple a statement as I could possibly make that goes over everybody's heads like a fighter jet during a sortie at Mach 6. They don't even know it's there, let alone acknowledge it or recognize it. We can't grow if we don't know. You can't get better in interpersonal relationships and dynamics if you have no understanding of what they're going through. Empathy. Understand our plight. Understand our drama. Understand our concerns. Don't just agree with them or nod your head. Oh, I know what you're saying, because you don't know. If you truly knew what it was like to go through it, you would be empathic. You'd be empathetic to what they said, that thought in your head would guide you to a different outcome every single time. Be empathetic. Understand the opposite gender. Acknowledge and understand that life is not a competition. At the end of it, you don't win anything, you just die. And you can't take it with you. You just die. And to prove that point, let's look at the pharaohs of Egypt. When they died, all their riches, their gold, their jewels, all that stuff was buried with them. You can go there today, the jewelry is still there. So you can't take it with you. Because you can't spend it, you can't barter with it, you can't do anything with it. You can't even touch it. So you can't take it with you. There's no competition. He who dies at the most toys still dies. So there's no competition. Another thing I can think of is close your damn legs. Understand that your youth your looks, and most importantly, your chastity are what we desire. And I can hear people saying, well, if men stopped asking for sex, we wouldn't get it. Let's take that to its logical conclusion. If women decided today, you don't get no more, nothing else to a marriage, what is the man's major purpose in life? To spread his seed. So if he can't do it until marriage, guess what happens? Marriage would go through the roof. But what happened after that is up to a conjecture. But if you didn't open your legs until you married that individual, the man have no choice but to marry you. That's why, and I just had a very interesting thought. When I was first dating my wife, we were talking, and she asked me, what would you do if I fell pregnant? Without even batting an eyelash, I said, I guess I'd marry you. And she was very happy, and she gave me a kiss after that. And I'm thinking to myself, what was that for? That's the right thing to do. And that was back in 95. Close to 30 years ago. And effectively another lifetime ago. There'd be no need for a shocking wedding, because I said, well, if I'm bad enough to get you pregnant, then I'm bad enough to stay and take care of you and the child. It just is. So close your legs. And a song comes to mind, No Pain, No Gain, where I forget the woman who sung it, what her name is, but she said, you can't show your teeth to every guy you meet. And that's true. Stop smiling at everybody. But at the same time, you can acknowledge a person. You can smile at someone without showing teeth. Good morning. Good day. Instead of good morning, good day, when you can be bothered to actually speak to them. And that would stop it's not that bad. You should smile a little. Because that's not being said to be condescending, contrary to what you've been taught. If I see someone who's looking kind of down or kind of frumpy, and I say, cheer up, it's not that bad. I'm not saying that because I feel like getting one up on you. I'm saying that because I'm concerned for you. I'm saying that because it takes less muscles to smile than it does to frown. So conserve energy. And I know that's been said in time. That's probably a meme somewhere, but it's very true. A smile won't kill you. Can I be in my feelings? We're not. We're told from the beginning As we're being raised, don't show your feelings. Have them, keep them to yourself. Or share them with someone who really, really knows you. That's what we're told. Women are all over the place. And I'm not, and understand this. The things that I'm saying today are not being said out of hate, out of malice, out of consternation, out of condensation, out of anything that's in a negative realm. I'm telling you these things because I want you to think about them. And think about how doing the opposite of what I'm saying here, in this case, smile, may have a positive impact on your day. The big lie, as stated before, is a whole bunch of little lies that are clumped together to make a really big one. Uncomfortable truths before we end the show. You're not special. And you're not special because we're all the same. See how I did that? You see? If we're all the same, nobody's special. How about that? Oh, it offends your sensibilities because it's not what you want to hear. But it's the truth. It's not a truth. It's not my truth. It's the truth. Nobody is special. Unless you're Jesus Christ. He was special. Whether you believe in him or not, he was special. And we as a people don't even come close. We couldn't even hold his coat. So no, we're not special. When you reach a certain point in your life where the men stop calling, and you will go there, that's called the wall. When you reach the wall in your life, men stop calling, life becomes less exciting because you're not being flown out. You don't have multiple options. You might have one. Two if you're lucky. Understand that you pissed away the best years of your life when you were at your optimal in terms of options. That's why Myron also says that you should cash out when your chips are up. But no, I want to roll that dice some more because I know it can be better. Not thinking, not thinking that you may have already had the best you'll ever get. You'll never do better than your baby daddy. Shout out to the great late Kevin Samuels on that one. You'll never do better than your baby daddy. Again, are there instances where you pull the lie to that statement?
Yes, absolutely. But again, is it worth the risk? Am I going to diss a definite for maybe? That's something that my friends, shout out to you, Marcus, and I always said to each other, and that's so true looking back on it. We always said, never diss a definite for a maybe. Once you get it, you got it. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. And it's worth more than that because that's it. The bird is in your hand. I got a definite. I've got mine. I've got my baby. She makes me happy. What's the point in looking elsewhere for happiness? And that's where a lot of people, and again, I don't condone cheating. Don't cheat. I can't say it any better than that. Don't cheat. Just don't. But at the same time, I know that a man can cheat on a woman and never have any less love for her. It's like jock itch. Feel an itch, gotta scratch it. And it's that simple. And I'm not saying that women have to get on board with cheating. No. In an ideal world, a guy wouldn't cheat. He'd find his mate and he'd be with her for life, and that'd be the end of it. But that's where society's going wrong. Men are taught to suppress their base instincts for monogamy. And there are quite a few guys that are monogamous and are happy with it. I'm happy with it. I'm very happy with it. I love my life as it stands. I've got a wife who loves me and children who adore me. Is every day roses and flowers and sunshine? No. But at the end of the day, the good days are more than the bad days. So I stay. Happily. And I lost my train of thought that quick. So we're going to end it. We're going to end it on that. Thank you, one and all, for allowing me to, I won't say educate. I'll say offer a different point of view. What you do with that information is totally up to you. Hopefully, you'll take something that I've said and apply it to your life. And hopefully, it'll make your life better for it. And as I've said many times, if just one person can obtain a better quality of life due to something I've said, my work is done. I can go to sleep a happy man. And as always, this podcast and others of like it in the Jazzy Groove Rainy Day Podcast family operate out of the power of 5. Yeah, 5. Like. Easiest way to say that you want to go, that you enjoy what you're watching. Comment. You have an idea for the show, criticism, critique, jot it down. We do read them. And if something really catches our eye, we may implement it in a future episode. Subscribe. Yeah, now we're talking. You want to watch our entire family of videos. 119 now and counting.
hit the notification bell. No, subscribe to it. And if you want to know when we get new stuff coming up, hit the notification bell. This way you're one of the first to know when we have new content. Share. If you like what we do, chances are someone that you know will like it too. Spread the love. Put them on it. They might like it. And then they might put one of their friends. They might put one of their friends. The very, very definition of organic growth. Word of mouth is the most powerful and most influential way you can ever talk about something. It holds its most weight. Why do you do it? Because such and such told me to do it. Why do you watch it? Because somebody put me on it. By themselves, they're all powerful tools for growth. Together, they're unstoppable. So, at the very least, like the video. Show the YouTube algorithm that you rock with us. So it'll then say, hey, people are starting to watch this. Maybe I'll put this on someone else's recommendation page. You never know. And with that, we're going to close it out. This is OBJ, your humble, highly favored, and most gracious host, telling you all, peace be with you. Do better. We're out of here.